I was saving over 50% of my income and still not getting the results that I wanted. When I was projecting my future returns, I tried my best in Excel to predict future economic events, such as 2008, dot-com crash, etc. But here's a problem that I was running into. How was I supposed to calculate the number that I was working towards when I can't predict the future? On top of that, I had to calculate for the time value of money, inflation, taxes, which are all subject to change. After looking at my financial system that I had, I threw real estate into the picture, and that made my returns a little bit better, but I still wasn't pleased with the results that I was working towards. But that's when I discovered the power of internet banking, being able to duplicate my dollars, use leverage inside my whole life policy to build assets more effectively. Let me break down the issues that I was running into on the front end. So let me break down some of the issues that I was running into. I like to call this the sad tower of power. So it's inflation, taxes, and then fees. In a previous video, we talked about the revolving door that exists between the Fed, Department of Treasury, and corporations. Here's a basic recap. So the corporation is going to buy debt from the Department of Treasury. The Fed is then going to buy that debt from the corporation in the secondary market. Here's the key takeaway. The Federal Reserve controls interest rates through the buying and selling of government debt. Here's a basic breakdown. So when the Fed buys that debt from the corporation, that's going to increase the amount of reserves in the system. As the amount of reserves in the system increases, that's going to lower interest rates. As these interest rates lower, people are going to get more leverage into opportunities, and essentially they're going to start businesses on a sand foundation. This is going to lead to some of those opportunities collapsing, and the investor is going to be left holding the bag while the people that got in and started the opportunity get out first. But overall, the key thing here to remember is that as the reserves increase, the amount of inflation in the system is going to increase as well. In addition, remember that if a corporation makes a bad bet, the Federal Reserve can then just bail out that corporation and we will pay for it through inflation. So what's the solution? You could get around a lot of these problems with having an optimally structured, fully funded whole life policy. Now let's break down taxes. One of the best ways to make money is to not lose money. But when you're being taxed 20+%, how are you supposed to do that? So what's the solution? Start up a business that adds value to others. Make helping others more profitable. Because here's the thing, the tax code is not set up for W-2 employees, it's set up for entrepreneurs. This business doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be a real estate business. Just pick something that's aligned with you and that will help others. But here's some of the benefits that you could unlock. So let's say you have a real estate business. This will give you access to depreciation write-offs, property taxes, the mortgage interest, and so much more just inside the real estate business. In addition, you unlock some cool tax codes like tax code 162 alpha, which allows you to write off certain expenses as long as they are contributing to income inside of your business. Another example is tax code 109 alpha, which allows you to write off 20% of your business income if you're a pass-through entity. Moving forward, once your LLC is structured properly, you could transition to an S corp and you could save a lot of money being taxed under that format. And finally, we have the concept of fees. So let's talk about this fee section. There was a Boston Dalbar study that said the average rate of return inside the market for equities holdings was 3.8% after taxes, fees, and penalties. This is a lot different than the 8 to 12% that is currently marketed in common investing platforms. A great counter argument to this is why not just buy into lower cost index funds? And I'm all for that. But if we reference the Pirates of Manhattan by James Dyke, over 77% of the average American's holdings is going to be in different securities accounts. So I don't have an issue with the market as a whole, but if it's over 77% or even over 50% of your current holdings and you think that's the only way to get returns, then that's a serious issue. So what's the solution to the problem? You could use the generational growth cycle to protect you from a lot of the negative things like we talked before. So being inflation, taxes, and fees. Let's break down how this is going to work. So when you contribute premiums into your whole life policy, that's going to go into your cash value. Then you're going to use that cash value as leverage to go acquire assets. But let's pause for a moment and look here at pillar 2 of generational growth. Instead of wasting time trying to find vetted professionals, just use the network that I have set in place. Regardless of where you're at in your wealth building journey, if you need a CPA, land guy, real estate folks, just reach out. I'll have someone in this network so we could utilize that freed up capital the most effective way. And then after we acquire our assets, that asset is going to provide cash flow, and that cash flow is going to pay off the original policy loan that we took inside of our policy. So the main takeaway here is you'll gain interest inside your whole life policy while gaining a cash flowing asset, which will contribute to your generational growth faster. If you're interested in learning more about these systems, reach out to me at Generational Growth Co.